Okay, let's trying to figure out where my oh, that's not what I want to see. Can you see that?
Some of it.
Yes.
Well,
No, we've just got your navigation bar. That's what I think.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
Have you
that's a
got
bit
your
weird.
window moved down?
Let's sort of try again. Um, oh, I see. I just pressed the wrong thing. Okay. How about that?
Yep.
Okay,
Looks good.
success. Okay, welcome everyone to the well, I don't know what number meeting it is, but it's the 4th of December meeting of the Archives Workgroup Project Management meeting. I'll just give a quick preamble. SingularityNET Archive contains a history of the activities of the SingularityNET Ambassador Program. All content is provided under an open source Apache 2 license, and contributions will be licensed under Creative Commons as well. Video recordings will be uploaded to QA YouTube. Our goal is to provide a collaborative platform for the SingularityNET Archive to share knowledge, ideas, and best practices. We welcome contributions from anyone interested in SingularityNET, whether it's a new project, code example, or documentation. So our process is that we have a stand-up of a GitHub board, but that first of all, we at the beginning of each meeting, we do a review of action and decision items, and that's now over to you, Vanny. Do you want me to stop sharing?
I think I can share over the top of you, actually. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Right. So here is. Oh, no, it's not. There we go. Here is the archives summary tool, and I'm starting the summary for today. We've got who's here. We've got various documents that are going to be relevant in this meeting, including the GitHub issue for this meeting. And let's have a look at decisions and action items from last time in November. We just noted the issues around the RAG workflow documentation that Stephen's doing and how open source ethos is important in how we approach it. So I think, we've noted it, we've documented it, we can remove it now. We also noted the developments in Andre's work on tool development, including implementing a controlled vocab for particularly for people's names. And we started, haven't we, Andre, with a document where I've started pulling out all the names, because
Yeah.
for those who don't remember what was going on here, we did have this idea that people's Discord name should be the name they go by in the archives, but that's proving difficult because sometimes people don't know when they're documenting what a person's Discord name is, and it's not always the same as their actual name that they go by. So I've started pulling together a list of the name by which people are most often known in a meeting, so that it makes sense. And we're going to implement that as a drop down, but we just haven't got to it yet. So I guess by January, we will have done that. I might just tweak that a little bit to say that and link. So I'll take
Yeah.
that out and just add that. We also just sort of noted that stuff about budget, basically the cuts that we said we'd make, and the issue of the way that people tended to put in higher budgets than they should to give themselves something to cut. Now, it's interesting that that has actually, I feel anyway, been really resolved by the whole budget caps thing. So I might add a note on that later when I come to document. And we also decided that when we look at the monthly archives issues, deep funding town hall can slow the process down a little bit. And I still haven't actually managed to find time to ask in, say, like a focus group meeting about how to progress that. So I'll leave that on and I'll leave it as an action item when I come to write this up. We also recognised that we might need to include a budget line in Q1 2025 to support collaboration outside the Ambassador Programme to capture material. But unfortunately, given that the cap was as it was, we didn't really have time to budget for, we didn't have enough to budget for that. So it's just something that's kind of pending and that we're aware of, that it would be nice to be able to do that at some point. And then also, while discussing monthly archives issues, we noted that the backlog for governance work group is still ongoing. And some of it is because it's not an entry level task. So I think we did raise that in our quarterly reports, and it's kind of getting resolved a little bit in governance because people do tend to not see it as entry level anymore, which is good. We started discussing the budget and what we would include. And the budget has obviously gone in. And for those who don't know, as far as I'm aware, it's been approved. There was no objections to it. So the budget we put in is the budget we'll be working with. And I've actually put it in the working docs, so if people want to have a look. But we'll get to it also on the board. Action items. Stephen is to set a date in November, well, actually in December, for presenting the open source paradigm. So that's done, and I'll mark it as done.
Finally.
And yeah, I suppose we might as well change the due date to the date that it actually was, which was yesterday. And there we go. I was to check you through budget issues from previous quarters and sort of close the actual budget issues if all the relate. Sorry, I'm not being very clear. We keep the issue for a quarter's budget open until all the things in that quarter are done. So I've gone through, done that, and closed the relevant issues. So they will no longer be appearing when we go through the GitHub board, which is good. Now that was a due date a while ago, but I suppose, yeah, I put it as that because I was going to do it straight after the meeting, so I did. I was to start a draft quarterly report, which I did and submitted. We didn't get any comments, but there we go. And I was to finish drafting the budget. That's also done. Right, and so any actions that come out of this meeting, I will add, and also topics covered and emotions. All right, there we go.
Okay, thanks for that, Benny. Let's go back to the board. Let's see. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, in progress. Why is there so few in progress? Actually,
Oh, it's check your search bar. It says meeting.
right, yeah.
Mine also did that. I don't know why.
All right, okay, let's save. Oh, no. Bugger. Got, why has it got that? In progress. Here we go. Sorry, that threw me for a minute there. Okay, so the first one is the meeting issue. I think, yeah, because I had it filtered, didn't I? Okay, so we're ordering things in, going through the order of labels, which is sometimes logical and sometimes not logical. But should I start with my issues and then move on to you, Andre, or do you want to start with yours?
Yeah, we can start with yours.
Okay. Right. This is a bit in flux. So let's see. Open source paradigm. Um, as Vanny mentioned, that's been now done. There's a link here to the slides that have now been uploaded to and converted to Google Slides and is presented at the town hall. But you suggested, Vanny, that I post that in Discord as well. Yeah.
I already did it actually.
Oh, great,
Maybe
great.
the
So
trouble. But what I think would be good is, like, once the town hall recording is up, add that link
right.
to the to the to there. But actually, now that it's done, we could actually close that and send it for payment, couldn't we?
Okay.
Yeah.
Think. Yeah. Um, should I close it then, or to done, or
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
I think
then.
so.
yeah. Okay. Done. Okay. Um, should I close it then, or to, done, or yeah, yeah. Okay. Done. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, done. Okay. Um, should I close it then, or to, done, or yeah, yeah. Okay. Done. Okay. Um, done. Okay. Okay, the RAG
Oh, and
workflow.
do you need to label it unpaid as well?
Do I?
Uh,
Okay.
it's I'm gonna look at as long as it's got an amount in, it will be
I
Okay.
fine.
think it has got an amount in it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
Yeah.
has.
If we could catch up with that. Okay, the RAG workflow, quarter three. I need to figure out what quarters some of this work should be in, actually. Um, okay, let's have a look at. Okay, I'm trying to think which issues which now. Tool development, RAG for quarter four. Um, and there's the open source. Where's the open source go?
I'm looking at it. No, further up.
Further up,
No, no, you were there. Further down now.
tool documentation, LLM development.
No,
Okay,
no, no,
so
no, no, no.
open
Go right
source AI.
down. QA out open source AI RAG workflow.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out which is right. Okay, so I'll
No, just
start.
go, no, go down. Go down.
Yeah,
Go down further. No, there you
no,
go.
no, it's all right. I've got it. I've got it. Fine.
But what's weird is in the quarter three one, you've got an update in November, which,
Yeah, I think that's why I got confused here. So I should probably take the update from quarter three and put it in where it should be. Okay. Was that you who did that update on me or
yeah, it was
um
during, I think.
okay, the update last week I did. Okay, so this is more relevant. So there was a bit of a rethink about the L&M development of the direction we're going in with the RAG. Okay. So I'll come to that. Um, so really we're looking at what I looked at again was I won't talk about I'm reviewing Ubio's work on the generative models that he was using, but I'll talk about that when I get to the issue on the LNM development. But part of that work in maybe reassess some of the strategy here. And one of the first things to do was basically the theme is to rather than straight away going to throw a huge text corpuses at a generative model, which is what we were doing, because is actually to first of all look at the structure, look at the data that we have, first of all, in terms of data mining, seeing what structured data we have and what unstructured data we have, and then moving on to manipulate that data using what we've learned from data mining. That's what the plan is in a nutshell. But also that informs, there's been some rethinking in terms of how we should also what we're doing. We're trying to explain what we're doing as we go along, so I'm trying to, every time I do this, I'm trying to document something which could be potentially be read as a kind of course, or a kind of self-learning thing. So this, I'm trying to reframe it. So what are we intending to use generative models for? So I've started to redraft this here, and feedback is welcome, or you've already had feedback from Vanny and Andre. So basically what we're doing, we are building self-taught learning materials, which we're doing data. Then the other big changes, we're doing data analysis. First of all, um, that's to prepare the data before we apply a new means of analyzing that data augmented with generative models. Um, Enhanced record keeping, this whole thing will enhance our record keeping, and then finally we will look at how we augment the data, looking at two things. One, a standard augmentation is always about applying a context. So that's another thing that we need to think about. We need to think about what is our context here in terms of what constraints do we want to put on the generative model, and safeguards. And also that also relates to ethical standards as well. Like, so yeah. Um, so that's how the frame is slightly shifting. And I put a link there to this note here on the RAG workflow. When I was reviewing the RFPs, I kind of tangentially referred to this at the town hall, but I couldn't really remember the exact terminology. But I noticed a probabilistic logic networks RFP, and it was talking about probabilistic. Oh, it's a bit of a mouthful. Probabilistic logic networks guidance to LNMs. Now, that's providing guidance for graph databases, which we're not using at present. What we're planning to do, again, I'll hopefully talk about this a bit more, not too much, maybe is using an SQL variant of that. So I'll come on to that. Yeah, so that I also referred to the graph databases that this is referring to in deep funding. So deep funding are using an open, and there's a useful outline here of what a graph database does and what it doesn't do. I won't go into detail there, but if you're interested, you can click on that link. So that provides a useful comparison of three different approaches. Okay. And again, I won't go into great lot of detail, but I'll just cover it very briefly. One is the kind of model that we're using at present, which is like a combination. Well, it's mostly JSON. Is that right, Andre? Yeah. So, and the structure of the data is around a JSON tree structure, if you like. We're thinking of, after a lot of review of how things have gone with raw data, we're thinking of how to structure data in a way that's constrained so that you can't it's less prone to just applying a generative model and then receiving back hallucinations and misleading information. We're thinking of combining that with SQL constraints, which will constrain. So basically, you're using a kind of semantic query against an SQL database. And graph databases is what this uses in deep funding. So that will be like, if you imagine a pathway to the future might look like currently at JSON. We might go to a hybrid of JSON and SQL, and then finally, if we're in a year or so, we might get to a graph database. Okay, sorry, that was a bit of a mouthful. The LNM development, again, I'm not quite sure if I put them in the right issues here. Let's see. Oh yes, some of this has gone over until November. I've started documenting what I'm doing with Ubio's work. Ubio did I think he extracted directly from the GitHub repo that is behind the archive Git book. And you can do that by accessing, I believe, the GitHub app API. And then what that does, it just basically scrapes that out and then uses that as a corpus, which then he applies a Hugging Face generative model to. But that produced I don't want to be too general results. So results that were misleading is not the right word, because it wasn't really constrained, the sample that was extracted. But this is like the turning point for our thing, because basically what I want to do is to document much more in a didactic way, so in a kind of learning way, what Ubio actually did. I've started doing that here. So basically everything you need to do what Ubio did. So basically set up a runtime, set up Hugging Face, and I've started documenting that here. It's obviously not complete, and I need to complete that. And the reason why I'm doing that is so that I can demonstrate why we're moving from just extracting out all the text, if you like, and just applying a generative model to it, to going back to looking at structured data and then applying a combination of SQL and a generative model to that. So that's really it. So I need to. I'm not sure how I should do that, Vanny or Andre, because I could continue documenting it here, even though it's gone over a few months now. So, but
Why don't you just change that issue to Q4 rather than October, and then you can just, and we'll just have to make sure that the
right,
amount is
or
the whole total.
I could just refer to that in the next issue, maybe. So in the
Okay. Yeah,
um,
you could do.
and see updates that. So
Yeah, that's probably
for the
better
moment,
actually, because
yeah,
if a fund request is too high, then it has to be queried and
yeah.
checked a bit more, so
Um,
it saves work if you don't do that. Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit weird because once I completed some of the work, I can then maybe tidy some of this up, you know. So, but I'll put that for the moment. I hope that was clear. If there's any questions, um, it's kind of the. I'm not sure if I've got any documentation on the rationale for the SQL. Let's have a look. Um, let's try and see. Think that I'm drafting something which in discussions actually with Annie and Andre a little bit as well on what this new strategy will look like. But basically, it's a doing some data mining, so basically extract. Well, we've already done this actually, but I haven't documented this. But extracting out, it's quite straightforward to export, do a big export of the data from the archive tool, which uses is it Superbase and Super. I'm pronouncing that right. Superbase and a JavaScript tool that Andres developed that can be extracted out, downloaded into common delimited data, and then I can take that and then convert it to basically create an SQL database from that. Well, two things I'm going to do there. One, I'm going to first of all, before I create it in structured data, I'm going to look at the data to look for patterns in the data, and I'm going to use Python data science techniques for that, which are going to be like creating data frames basically, and then doing just seeing what we have, what patterns we have in there. And once I see that, okay, Peter, thanks. So I'll, once I've done that data analysis, we'll review it amongst ourselves and see what is the structure of what we have basically, and then what kind of structured queries we could apply to that. Okay, so that'll be maybe sometime in February or March or so, where we say, okay, we have these patterns in our data, what kind of constrained questions can we ask the database? Okay, and then that can be then translated into a prompt, which then can be used in tandem with a generative model, and all the generative model would do would give a semantic wrapper to that. But I don't want to go on, maybe I'm going on too much here, but that's basically where we go, and I probably should need to put this more in the issues. So I'll move on to, I think that's all my issues. I move on to the summary redesign, Andre, now, and I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Yeah, you just scroll down. I think, yeah. So we are busy with those Discord names now. I updated, there's a table in the database where all the names get saved for the drop down. So when people type names, that database will show a list of names. So what I did was I deleted I only kept the names of that are on the list that Fanny made, but that list will still be updated. And then the next thing I need to do, which is going to be quite a bit of work, is I need to go into all the meetings and change the names in those
Wow.
JSON files. So I think I'm gonna write some code to do that because if I have to do it manually, I know I
Yeah.
think there's like 400 meetings or
Wow.
something. So,
Yeah. But you should be able to do a
so
search and replace on that somehow, or with caution.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to test. Even if it just fixes the majority of names, because
Yeah.
they are spelled weird,
Yeah.
so I need to try and find matches. But I'm sure it will be able to fix like the majority, and then I'll just, if I have to, fix the last few manually.
Is that who our names just recorded it in terms of participation, or is it, or are there other things like action and decision item names?
Oh,
Yeah, there is. Yeah. There
yeah.
is an action, but the actions are actually cool because they get the names from that table. So
Right.
whatever is in that table, those are easy. Whatever is in the table, that will be displayed.
Right. So you could apply a constraint where you sort of have a specific a person, what that
Yeah,
person's meeting's been and what decision, did you say decision or action items they are um,
yeah.
associated with?
I mean,
Yeah.
it pulls from the same source, doesn't it? The drop downs for that. But I'm just
Yes,
wondering about
yes.
historically, you'd have to change them throughout, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Because it's not going to be
yeah.
the case that if you change
Yeah,
it,
that's true.
yeah.
I'll have to
Because I, with the data cleaning
yeah,
that I was doing, I've started on that. But
yeah,
I think then I was working to the whole, your Discord name is your
Mm,
archive name, and we're not doing
yeah,
that anymore. So yeah, I
yeah.
think if code can be written to do this, this would be amazing in terms of data cleaning. And I'm just kind of
yeah,
thinking also if you can do it for names, theoretically, when we look at the control vocabs for other things like tags, theoretically, it could be done for that as well.
Mm.
Maybe.
Hope,
yeah, yeah.
Because I'm just thinking,
Yeah,
with the data cleaning I've started doing, all the ones where people have just put budget, and you're like,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah, which quarter? And,
yeah,
I've started going, ages ago, I started going through and changing it, but it's laborious. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
And also, gone.
it will only fix like the easy ones. So if it gets too tricky, it might mess it up. Like, some tags are sentences. So,
Right.
yeah,
uh,
I mean, maybe we
but
can just leave those as they are because I find them quite endearing, but we don't do
yeah,
that anymore. But
yeah.
But by the way,
Yeah,
this is good source material for the data frames I'm doing. So any
yeah,
cleaning that you do, I can just redo an export and then re-input that into a data frame.
yes,
So,
yes,
yeah. So again, it's not to duplicate the work. It's basically to augment it to see, basically,
yeah,
how what we're doing, all the data cleaning and the organization and all the changes that you're making, Andrew, how that comes out into a statistical context.
this is also what we were
yeah.
talking about the other day about whether the sort of further work in Q1 on the summary tool redesign, should we try and enforce templates that kind of minimize the amount of free text to enable what Stuart is
Yeah,
doing to kind
Yes.
of, you know,
it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's Sukra here is and what Sukra actually, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'd be interested to see what people think about constraining free text. So, I mean, because I suppose on the one hand, free text is a way for people to have some free, well, as it says, free expression. But then it can,
Yeah.
there's the whether it's useful or not.
That's the one solution we actually came up with was those discussion points. So instead of having a box of text, you have these
Mm.
lines, and maybe people will then separate those contexts.
So each discussion point would be its own datum.
Yeah,
So you would have, it'd be like a field then, each data point. Yeah.
yeah.
So
mm,
that's interesting because that would,
it's
yeah.
It's also about the layout. You know, the template that Tevo uses for his meetings, he has an agenda item and then he has actions and decisions related to that agenda item.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah.
same the next. And it just feels like that is producing the clearest summaries. So, but yeah, I do think what we're getting is repetitiveness. People are putting stuff in their narrative and then they're also putting it in decisions and in action items. And yeah, it's
Ooh,
not particularly helpful. And I think, honestly, I think people would find a lot of people will find it easier to document a meeting if it's
Yeah.
broken up like that.
One thing I would
yeah.
footnote a little bit is from the AI ethical angle is data should um, reflect what people what is, you know. So, but I suppose in our case, what we've done, we've discovered, in a sense, we've made the structure looser than it needed to be, really, and then we've in a sense uh, discovered what patterns there are, and now we're seeing what constraints need to be applied. So, do you think there's a feedback loop here? Are we reflecting what people need, or are we being prescriptive here?
I mean, I have to say that when we did all the research with people about, what do you need to record, people hadn't really recorded meetings yet. So they were guessing and they were, we were
Yeah,
sort of working
yeah,
out with them from our experience of record keeping, this is kind of what might be useful. And people were going, oh, I think I'd find this easier or whatever. But now people have been doing it for, a year and a bit.
right.
Maybe it's different.
Okay. Yeah, I just
Yeah.
put that. I just put that out there, and that's all, because it's
I
kind of,
think,
yeah,
yeah. I think it's good to revisit it because people did have do have more experience now. So it's definitely worth revisiting.
yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if that's something we is that something we pick up in our reports, Manny. Likewise, so
Mm,
because there's a kind
yeah.
of positive aspect to that. The community's learning, as you say, at the beginning. Well, all of us are learning. We come in, find a community, and we try to reflect that community in a kind of record keeping stroke archive. There's another issue, and then
Yeah.
at first people don't know what that would look like, and then through an iterative process people learn what works best, hopefully. Yeah,
I mean,
so
what I'm
yeah,
thinking of is that maybe we could ask a couple of people who are kind of experienced documenters and who use a more free text-based model. Can you try out the other model and just see if it's a headache or if you like it better or whatever? The other thing is that I do have to mention that we have said if AGIX went up higher than 55, which it kind of has, well, if
mm,
it's still there in January, we said we would look at trying to work with work groups to build a cross-program team of good documenters. And, obviously we can't like enforce it and say to work groups, you can only use people who are on this list, but it'd be more like going to them and go, who are your key documenters? And we put them all on a list and
yeah,
maybe work with them to kind of develop the meeting templates a little bit better.
right. I'll just throw something else out there. The Let's say we went down the route of discussion points, Andre. Yeah, so you'd have
Yeah.
like each record could have multiple discussion points, right? But that would be constrained per somehow, so presumably by length or something, you know. Um, do we still need a space for free text? So maybe like, yeah, I'm just thinking, what is the importance and relevance of free
Yeah,
text? Do we need to allow people to say have and call it notes or something,
we may
or I
need
don't
a
know?
bit. I mean, what we tend to do, what the combination of different things that we've got is when you say discussion points, that's like an agenda item. What are you discussing? And
Right.
then you might want some free text about what was said, but it may then also just be about decisions, action items, and so on.
No worries, Onsi. You're here now. Thanks for coming. Um, yeah, I feel you. I hope you got a reliable connection. Sorry, Onsi's just here. Yeah, so we, as you say, Bunny, discussion points won't exclude the possibility of having some supplementary free text. And actually maybe it gives some
Mm.
context to
They
free
don't
text.
exclude the possibility, but I'm just wondering like how much can, I think it is quite good to minimize free text if we can. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to. I think we don't want to make it impossible, but
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
just thinking that the reason people write free text is to give a bit more detail about what was said. But if they start using the decision field to kind of record key points that were made, then maybe
Yeah,
the way. And also, often a lot of the meat of the discussion is in a linked document of some kind.
that's a second. Yeah, there's two issues there, isn't there? I mean, I kind of agree. I don't think, and I don't know what your views are on this, Andre. I think discussion points apply a useful context to the pretext. You can inhibit, say, too much verbiage by maybe putting a word count on what free text
Oh,
people can put in, maybe. I'm not sure if you
Yes.
can, yeah. Now,
yeah.
but I still think free text, I've got an intuition that free text from a data analysis point of view, from a patterns point of view, possibly even from an AI point of view, could be useful down the road.
Yeah.
Um, and the other, and that's the secondary problem about the linked text, I think is a separate, maybe it's something at some point would have to, can imagine that as a funded job, because basically what we're looking at there is following a link to external material and then how can we analyze that external material in relation to a particular record. Go on, Danny.
It's just occurred to me also, I wonder what the possibilities are for integration with a GitHub board. As more work groups are using them, the detail is in the issue, and you could maybe just link to the relevant issue.
Yeah, it's
I don't know if
certainly,
that helps or doesn't help, but
well, it might add a certain, well, it depends on whether that's going to happen to the summary tool or in some other way. Because as UBO demonstrated, it is possible to interface, well, through various means as well. I mean, Andre, you're doing it as well. You can interface directly with a GitHub issue,
Yeah.
and it's a question of yes, but I suppose we would need to. Would that constrain people, Vanny? I'm not sure. Are we saying that people
yes,
should
that's
use?
what we want to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
I know.
I
I
think what
suppose there's
no,
yeah,
what I'm saying is that yes, I think free text can be really useful to give contextual information of all kinds. It's not just background to the issue and what was discussed. It also tells you something about who we are as a community. The way that people write that free text says so much, from
yeah,
the point of view of somebody who has done quite a lot of archives research with kind of organizational records of kind of political organizations and grassroots groups. You see so much about who they are from the way they write their minutes. And
yeah,
I wouldn't want to lose that completely, but I also wouldn't. I think people make it more laborious than it should be, and they kind of write these long narratives. And it's kind of partly about making the documentation task easier.
yeah. No, it's an ongoing issue. I think we need to, yeah, as we progress to, I think the discussion points and all that are kind of a step in the right direction. And then when it's like anything, every feature that we introduce, we just to see what effect it has. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
feed back into what we're doing, which is what we're doing, I suppose. But it does leave some issues on the table, like what do we do with external source material? How do we disambiguate summaries from detail in that sense? Mm. But anyway, should I move on? That's the summary tool, the tool development for November. Shall I open that one, Andre?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I've put it in this one. Yes. So
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
I've built that dashboard, the archives dashboard, where people can filter. There's like filters they can use if they want to search. And I've put the link there as well, archives dashboard.netlify. So it is working. There are, I think there's one bug that I'm aware of. I did fix a bug today, but there's still another one that I'm aware of. So if you click search archives and you use some of the filters, it does create a URL, but I've noticed some of the URLs don't load properly when you, so that's a bug I need to fix. But
Is that
everything
going
else,
across? Is that
it
just searching
highlights,
across?
yeah,
That's
yeah.
highlights, yeah.
So it's
Is it
searching all the summaries, yeah,
all the summaries, all the complete, any
yeah,
mention of the word education? Okay, fine. Okay.
that's right. And if you
Yeah.
see in the table, it says content matches, so it will tell you whatever text you have, there's 44 matches in this meeting, and also tag matches. So
So
you can
right,
see how,
that's useful, tag matches, right?
yeah, yeah.
And
And if
content
you,
matches and action items.
yeah, yes.
Content overview. So that will,
So
let's say
the
you're gone.
the content overview, that's not, it's not the matches, but it does show you how many action items and decisions the meeting has. And on
Okay.
the right, the view details. I suppose I have to give it better names, but if you click on view details, then it opens up the summary, and you can, if you scroll down, it will actually also show you the highlighted words. So if you search governance, you should see it somewhere.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah. So then you can quickly have a look at where does it feature.
Okay. Again, is this just a query on the Superbase
Yes. Yeah.
being output via JSON to basically a website, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
this is hosted on GitHub. Or
Netlify.
Netlify.
Yeah.
I thought it was a GitHub page. It's not a GitHub page, no. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
What is it? Okay, we're using Netlify for we could use a GitHub page, is that right? Or
it's a little tricky.
is there
No,
problems
no, no, I
with
can't. Oh, I suppose I can, but it gets tricky because I use sensitive like API keys and stuff. I suppose I
right?
can create secrets, but it's
I,
just comfortable on this
yeah, I
Netlify.
mean, is this a distraction? I just it occurred to me because of
Yeah,
let's say if we wanted everything completely open source and not depending on because if you're using Netlify, we're
yeah,
using a third party. I'm not saying it's not going to go away, is it, Netlify? So, but it
yeah,
is a
yeah.
third party hosting tool essentially, or well, not
Yes,
hosting tool.
yeah,
It's an infrastructure implementation tool, isn't it? So,
yeah, yeah. The other thing is I can do things on Netlify that I cannot do on GitHub. So Netlify, you're able to create these API routes. So it spins up servers for like 10 seconds.
yeah. So it's probably not
And
about it's about not reinventing the wheel because we could do a lot of this all ourselves on
yeah,
GitHub, but essentially we'd be the work would be it's about getting things done, I suppose, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Because there's also I imagine super base features that are easier to
Yes, yes.
easier to implement on Netlify.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough.
One
Sorry.
thing that one thing that I notice about this is that for almost any keyword I've searched for, you will have, can you stop scrolling, please? You'll have maybe two tag matches and then loads more content matches than there are tags. And I think this is showing that our tagging isn't great.
There's also a lot more words. So the content matches covers everything that was typed in the meeting. So that word will appear much more.
No, I know, but
So
if
a
the
tag
word
will,
if the word governance is in
yeah,
a meeting summary, I can't
yeah.
see how that could not need to be a tag if it's there. I think
Oh,
obviously,
yeah, I see what you
some
mean.
words, if it's like the or whatever, then obviously, but say
Yes,
that
yes,
this
yes.
search that Stephen's doing here is governance, am I right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and if there's like 6 content matches in that
Yeah, that's
governance
true.
workgroup meeting, why is there no tags? Or are
This
we
is,
just taking it for granted it's a governance meeting? Of course, we discuss governance.
I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
this is sort of the things I'm looking for in data frames as well. But the question arises there. Well, that's a question, is it? If governance at all is mentioned in any meeting, should it be a tag? I mean, that's the question is
Yeah.
maybe, because I
Yeah.
mean, I think in most cases, yes, Vanny, but there may be, I could just say, it might be really referred to very loosely or
I know, but
used in a
I
different
think it
context,
just I've searched with quite a few different search terms, and there seems to be a pattern. Even if you're more specific, like I don't know, decentralized
Yeah.
governance or um,
Yeah.
I don't know, consent decision making. If
Mm.
you've mentioned something as specific as consent decision making and you haven't tagged it, then
I can imagine like data change requests, like the same way that it depends on the overhead there, but Andre, like what you're doing with the names, you can do a batch update. So let's say we wanted to change all the tags, all the tags to governance if it mentions governance, that'd be possible to do as a kind of database update, wouldn't it?
we could. Except I'm wondering
Yeah.
if we can get that information from a dashboard like this. Do
Mm.
we need to? Because
Well, it,
if it can search and it can find relevant content matches, I'm sort of, I don't know, I sort of felt in the past that our tagging was really, really important in order to help an LLM find what it's looking for. But now that we're doing it in a different way, maybe it's less significant. I don't know.
well, it kind of, yeah, you're kind of the tag is depends on the context, the meaning of the context of the tag. So is it, I suppose the tag implies it's one of the main themes of that meeting. Yeah.
I don't think it does necessarily. I think some people tag very extensively and others are very minimal. And what
Right.
I've noticed that sometimes people tag something that because it's a tag that's there rather than because
Yeah.
it's a key sort of topic of the meeting. So,
That's a good point.
you know,
If you did a big batch update, you might overwrite a
mm,
context where tags are specific to people who update them.
mm.
So that would be a data pattern. So specific people will be tagging in different ways.
But
Okay.
I'm sort of all I'm saying is that, if we can search via content matches and then translate that into whatever we're going to do with it, maybe tagging is not as important as we originally it would have been.
Hmm.
I don't know. What do you think, Andre?
Yeah, but I guess we'll have to ask what is the purpose of the tags, because if you search, I
Yeah.
mean, you do get the content matches.
I think originally it's because content matches can be like overdetermined. You could mention
Yeah,
governance and it's not really about governance. And it was also because we were going to use the tags to help support an LLM to come back with meaningful answers
yeah,
in the
yeah,
retrieval process. But if we're not doing it that way anymore, then maybe.
Hmm. My only concern is again, it's like similar issue with the free text. It's like we need to be careful not to lose a point of view here. So and I know this may not be working properly, but yeah, how someone tags something. So let's say you do a search on governance and we find content matches, fine, yeah, that might be expected. And that's quite a broad brush approach because you're just finding any mention of that word. The tag kind of creates an additional context where that's saying that people think this is related to governance in some way, which is a slightly different thing.
yeah, yeah,
So, but the question is that may not be working as you say, Banny, because people may not be tagging consistently, but
Yeah, I mean
because
they're not,
people,
but
yeah, but
that's okay,
that could
isn't
be
it?
significant as well. You see, do you know what I
Yes,
mean? So,
exactly. I mean, one thing
yeah.
I was just wondering, Andre, how does tag matches work? Is it partial matches as well as full matches? Like if you searched
yes,
for, I don't know, decentralized governance. No, I mean the other way. No, I do
Yeah,
mean that way around. If you search for decentralized governance, will it come up with a tag match if the tag is just governance?
no,
Right.
it
Okay.
will. So if you type governance,
Yeah.
it will show a tag that's decentralized
Yeah.
governance.
But not the
So
other way
it's
around.
not the other way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. That's useful, I think. Yeah, helpful.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think tags is still, you
Hmm.
can definitely still keep it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because the other thing I haven't done much searching on is the emotion tags and what we get. Because obviously there won't be a content
oh yes.
match for, I don't know, bad-tempered
Yes,
or productive or
that's a
helpful.
very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
will definitely be
I suppose,
stand
as you
out.
say, Andre, there's two questions like what is it for? But then also the other side of that is what is it
Yeah.
being used? How is it being used?
Yes. Yes.
Because what's it for may not be how it's being used. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're both interesting. They might be interesting. You know,
Yeah.
so I agree. I think we should keep it for a moment. Should we go?
Yes.
Do you want to talk into anything more about the tool? So I go to the home page.
I've just got
Um,
one question about it. If you can just go back to
okay.
the search that you were just on.
Do you want me to do
In
a search term? Okay.
in future developments, Andre, with
Yeah.
the content overview where we've got the number of action items and decisions, is there any
Yeah.
likelihood that you could build something that could export, I don't know, a spreadsheet with what those 7 decisions were and
Yes.
which,
Yeah. Yeah.
because, or,
Yeah.
because I think it would just help us to be able to compare, what we've been talking about in terms of decision management and kind of
Oh
looking
yes.
at, oh,
Yeah.
which work group is making decisions for everybody, which work group is making internal decisions. Are there
Yeah. Yeah.
differences in what this group and that group have decided on a certain topic? All this kind of thing.
Yeah. So maybe click on action items. Stephen, do you see where it says meetings? Yes, and action items or decisions, maybe.
Oh,
So yeah,
right.
you can
Oh,
filter decisions here.
And
Uh,
you could search this as
you
well.
could,
So,
yes, exactly. Yeah, you
right.
could search
okay.
the
Yes, of
decisions as
course.
well.
So let's put
That's
governance in again.
interesting.
Let's see. Well, I spelled that wrong.
So, but
Oh, yeah. So,
I can
yeah.
definitely
Yes.
make
Hmm.
a export. But
I mean, maybe we don't need an export if it can show this, but I'm just wondering if maybe there's a need to sort of filter what what it's finding. Like, is there actually a decision that is about governance, or is it because this first one, it looks as if it's literally only in the rationale and it's a mention about governance meetings,
Hmm.
which isn't really a
yeah,
decision about governance, is it? So
yeah,
if we could
yeah,
filter so that it was the actual decision text.
Hmm.
Mm. And it'd be nice if you could filter by, I mean, you can filter
it
by
is. It is the
text.
actual the decision text. It
Where?
is the text that's in the decision.
Where?
So we noted in that whole
There it
block of
is.
text is the
Oh, right, okay.
text.
No, no, it's literally the only mention of governance is, oh, we'll raise it in a governance meeting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
But that
so
isn't
basically it
yeah.
shows all the text that they
Mm.
wrote for that decision and
Mm.
then the rationale.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
This is interesting. This could be, I mean, this is good material for prompt design as
Hmm.
well, potentially, because good prompt design will, yeah, it's almost all, we're about 90% of the way here to answering a question, aren't we? But there's still some ambiguities, so there's still like,
yeah,
so it'd be interesting to see how, that would work. I suppose the question is again with, because essentially you're creating a data dashboard, haven't you? Like a query dashboard, Andre. So this
yeah,
allows you to filter, well, actually the community to use it. Yeah. So that's one thing. The other is kind of separate from maybe what we might want to do internally, which is more kind of statistical data analysis, more strategic data analysis, like saying what patterns are in the data, how
yeah.
things maybe should be changed, so or constrained. So do you think there's two things there, Vanny?
Yeah, it feels like a lot of for us, the use of this dashboard is going to be to help us analyze the data so that we can see then how it could be better constrained, and maybe that would feed back into the tool redesign, and it would
Yeah,
also feed into your work on like the developed RAG analysis,
yeah. I mean, I love this because
Yeah.
this looks like a prompt
Right.
design, frankly. You know,
I
because
know.
you've got the answer to the question of what is a decision, but it's not strictly deterministic. It has its bounds. Each of these is coming from is this coming from a range of sources, Andre? The decision,
No, no, no. It's a single field. So that is the
right,
person just typed
right,
so it's a that is the decision and then the rationale and the effect.
yeah. I
So
mean,
whatever they typed in that field shows up there.
like one significance could be, is it mentioned in more than one? Like, so it's mentioned here and here, for example.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
as you say, Vanny, that could be tangent. Is how much at a tangent is it? You know, so how does it does the term governance have a material relevance to this decision? I
I
suppose that's
mean,
a,
I
yeah,
think it's worth noting that anything that is the name of a work group is not going to be that productive as a search term, because things are going to come up that
yeah,
just
fair enough.
mention,
Yeah,
you know,
fair enough.
if you
Yeah,
say research, then anything to do with R&D is going to come up. So
right. Yeah, maybe
I
this
don't know.
wasn't
I
such a
think
good.
maybe if you search decentralize, you might get.
Oh, I can't spell that.
I did think about that because I did think like maybe I can exclude like if it's governance
Mm.
work group, then I exclude governance work group from the search results. So it only looks for governance. But any
You li
other
Yeah,
governance.
exactly. If you spell it that way, you're literally only going to get things that I've documented because that's the UK spelling. So
Oh, shucks, yeah.
spell it with a
Obviously,
Z
but
and you'll get more.
you can
Oh
I
my
search on
mean,
a
goodness,
part.
that's also true.
No, but it's okay because you can search on a
yeah, just that
partial.
string is
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, yeah,
Decentral, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, and actually, that's something that AI would get round because AI could handle misspellings.
Yeah, yeah,
You can handle misspellings in a database, but it's probably a bit more clumsy, I'd say. I'm not sure.
yeah,
Because you would have to have all the
Mm.
alternate spellings in your query.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yep.
yeah,
That's
Okay.
a bit
yeah.
You
much.
know what? Looking at this is making me realize that I do too much. Is It's not a decision. It's things that we noted in the meeting because there's nowhere else to put that. If it's not an actual decision, it's just, oh, we talked about this and we noted this. I put it in decisions and I probably shouldn't.
Mm. That's why I mentioned. I mean, again, it's about how people use these things, isn't it? Because a decision, ideally, I don't know, depends what the intention is. But ideally, a decision should be quite deterministic, so you know what is the decision. You can answer it very briefly. You know, you can say this was what was decided. You know, but maybe I'm making some presumptions there. Whereas something like a note would expand on more of I don't know, more of a subjective context. I'm not sure.
I don't even think it's that. It's just the fact that the decision is we agreed that such and such is okay, or that such and such is the case, you know.
Mm,
And quite often meetings are about that. It's like somebody will report back on their work. You know, you see it in video and in writers. Their summaries will go, oh, so and so shared the work they've been doing on this, and everyone went, okay. And the decision is we noted this.
yeah, but
You know.
take this one here. We noted is noting something a decision.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think I tend to do that, and maybe it's not a decision, but there are decisions in there, and it's like, should each of those be a separate thing? Should we will move to meeting fortnightly? We may move half of the
Oh,
research
yeah.
project. You know, we made it. I put them all in one. I know that was me because I remember doing it.
Mm.
Like, I've put them all in one, and maybe I shouldn't have. But then you just get this laborious list of decisions.
Well, I mean, again, it'd be an interesting
Yeah.
AI experiment, okay? Because I think the problem with hallucination is the generality of the sample, okay? Like with so the first attempt at just to throw in everything. But let's say you took a specific record, yeah, like this line here on the on-building workshop, and you applied a more constraint, like you said you applied a prompt saying extract the decisions from this text, okay, in a decision field. You might get a more, well, I don't know. We would need to
Yeah,
do some experiments, but you might get a more coherent response there.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
yeah.
And
It's
I'm not
like,
saying it. I'm not
let's,
saying it's going to be perfect, but
aren't you?
no, no,
Oh,
no,
I'm
no.
not interested then.
Well, it's
No, but
AI.
what I'm just going to ask you now is everybody in this room, how would you document this conversation? It's not a decision, it's not an action item, but it is things that are interesting and maybe should be noted and recorded. We haven't decided
They,
any. We've said, oh, we might look at this and we might look at that. Where would that go? Or is it
yeah.
something that we shouldn't be trying to capture in meeting summaries? Is this like you had to be there? And if there's a
The,
decision, we
maybe
document that?
maybe it's a discussion point. Mm,
Yeah, it is, but discussion points are just kind of like top level. It's like, oh, we were talking about Andre's new dashboard.
yeah,
That's the
yeah.
discussion point.
Shucks, yeah,
But
that's
what
also
we
true.
said about it, should we be recording that or not? Because the more I think about it, the more I think, unless you've decided something, I don't
Yes.
know.
I don't know because an LLM could extract out because this is quite logical. We've got a section here on what's been noted. Okay, we noted this here, and then you've got 4 points of agreement. So if you queried this, not queried it, you've asked an LLM, which is a kind of a structured query, it would extract out what was agreed here, and and then so you
Mm,
there is some discrete. Obviously, it's not going to be the case for everything, but here,
mm.
this actually does lend itself to
Yeah, I see it now.
specifics. Yeah,
But the more I'm thinking about it and our future process, the more I'm thinking we just need to have Read AI in every meeting and we just need the transcript. Even though it's not perfect, we do not need the summary because they're bloody awful.
yeah,
But we just need to link the transcript and we need to find ways to query that transcript in this kind of way, almost like a database search.
right.
But I don't know. Maybe that's bollocks. Maybe breaking it up. And, because in a way, a summary is completely unconstrained data. And you don't, it's how you direct it to look for the right things. But Lord,
Yeah, I suppose I'm just thinking, it's where we put our priorities, I suppose. I
yeah.
suppose we're already making leaps and bounds, Andre, with this tool that you've designed because you kind of, I
Mm,
mean, I think there's a kind of getting people to use the tool is another thing, yeah. Because it's like a decision-making tool in a way, isn't it? It shows you, okay, it's not perfect, but it actually goes a long way towards saying what did your work group decide, etc., etc. What was its action items and so on, yeah.
mm,
Yeah,
And then the next step is again the work that we're doing on AI. So this is providing a lot of source material for that, a lot of experimental case studies, if you like. So we could do experiments on this, but that's another thing.
mm.
So it's a question of deciding how to break this up.
Well, I think the effects thing is something that you maybe wouldn't get from an AI transcript, unless instead of bothering to train documenters, we start training facilitators to verbally say, okay, that's a decision and it will affect everybody or just this work group. But,
Yeah,
that's a whole other approach. But what I'm finding really interesting is the effects drop down. If you can search for, because to me, decisions that just
yeah,
affect the one work group, they're just kind of
yeah.
internal and it's more for tracking purposes, like to go back and go, did we do it's almost like an action item, but not quite. Did we follow through on what we decided? But decisions that are meant to affect
You see, I,
everybody,
I I would describe that as a prescriptive data constraint. It
yeah,
almost has governance implications.
yes,
So so
absolutely.
so, and that's maybe we need to start thinking in those terms. It's like is and keeping an eye on that for various different reasons. One, because you're if you're prescribing some data constraint, then that hopefully there's been some consent for that. Yeah, there's been some input into
Well,
that.
not necessarily. I mean, because I think people have tried this. They've tried to say, oh, we've made a sort of tentative decision and now we're going to share it with everybody and get everyone's consent and blah, blah, blah. And people just ignore it. So
Right.
you're just like, well, I think I've
Yeah.
noticed, this particularly in things like Treasury, we can't sit here waiting for people to comment for ages. And if people haven't got any comments, then, like in a meeting where you sit there and you go, does anybody object? And if there's a resounding silence, you assume that nobody objects,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
suppose I'm being
Yeah.
wary of centralization here, I suppose.
No,
But
I
the
know, I
but
know.
but the thing is, there is a kind of chicken and egg where if you like what you're doing here, Andy, or what we're doing, if we start to successfully constrain data in a prescriptive way, I'm not using prescriptive in a derogatory sense, just saying, it's designed that way,
Yeah.
then people will use it that way, won't they? So, and that's the issue that slightly I feel in mixed feelings about, because on one hand, that creates maybe some effectiveness, because people, they use it as a working tool. It's not just the archive work group. All the other work groups are hopefully using this to
Mm,
see the rationale or whatever. And also it informs other things like the budget maybe, or what happened when, how the program's going generally, that kind of thing. Yeah.
mm,
But it becomes that tool. It becomes the infrastructure for the program. You see what I mean?
mm.
And yeah, is that a good thing? And that's what kind of thing, or I see what you mean. Is it centralized? Is it that
I
kind of thing?
don't think it does become the tool. I think it's just a
Yeah.
tool. But
We
if
still,
can you
yeah.
just change on the all effects drop down, just change it to effects may affect other people? Because I think that strips out the things that are not, they're just internal guff. Whereas these are, well, not guff, but you know what I mean? It's only of interest to that work group. But these are the things that are kind of governance issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, so at the moment you kept it very general, like may affect other people. Were you thinking of making that more specific?
Maybe.
So
I don't know. I don't
mm,
know. I
again,
think
that's
Can
I
add
was just, oh,
more.
go on,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, no, no. I just wanted to say we can add more to the drop down if we want to.
I just think people have enough trouble at the moment as documenters
Yeah. Yeah.
thinking, what should they pick? I've seen things that clearly affect the whole program being tagged only affects this work
Oh
group. And it's
goodness.
just like,
Yeah.
really?
see again, this would be
Yeah.
another interesting experiment for constraints, because what is the inference? If you just um, so again with a large language model, given this text and given the constraint that this may affect other work groups, okay, or all work groups or the whole
Mm,
program, what is your conclusion? Yeah, what would you
mm,
say? That's the kind of thing. And it's be interesting to see that so this could just be a series of experiments, because I think uh, as you hinted, you get to a point where if it starts to become too specific, like as
mm.
you say, then it goes off the rails again. Because if you give people a specific choice, maybe they just pick their favorite patterns. I'm not sure, So do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
But also even that onboarding one there, yes, if we decide to have a Skillshare session that's open to everybody, it does affect other people, but it's still a kind of internal decision, and maybe that should have been tagged this work group. It's what do we mean by effects? To
Yeah, and again,
question
but the
me.
thing is that is of that question is of interest to the community, isn't it? Like, as like I don't know, do you want to get controversial here? Like, what I do this in my work group, how does this affect other work groups, or how does this affect the ambassador program as a whole? I suppose. I don't know. We've been talking about this for a while. Can
Yeah.
we? Yeah.
And I think
So
we've
Yeah.
lost almost everybody. It's
yeah.
it's
Sorry.
just us four now.
Thank
Yeah.
you. But it's great work, Andre, and it's providing a lot of again, it's like realizing it's creating a great context for things like and helping with you raise these questions of how how we should use this as infrastructure for decision making, I suppose. So anyway, is there anything else you want to say on? As you mentioned something about the Gamers Guild bugs there.
Yes, I did fix that today. Oh, so this is the November one. So the
It is, yeah.
December tool development I
Let's go
mentioned.
on to that. Let's see.
Yeah.
Where has that gone?
So
Is
in
it?
December I mentioned that I did fix that bug, and then I still need to fix the URL bug.
Maybe it's
It's
off
just
the
a little
list. Yeah.
below one more, you're close, little down. Oh
I'm just
yeah, we
seeing
can
this.
take.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's all I can see.
There, there's a little down, but we can do documentation.
Oh, there is. That's right.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
So,
So at the bottom, I think I mentioned I fixed the Gamers Guild bug, and then the next one I need to fix is that URL bug. I'm gonna fix that. So I noticed when you select filters and things, it actually changes the URL so that you can copy the URL, send it to someone else, and when they open the URL, they will get the dashboard with all the filters that you applied.
right,
That's
that's
the
useful.
idea. But
Okay.
I did notice there is a bug there, so I just need to fix that.
Um, are these code changes the repo?
Yes, if you scroll up, the I've got the summary tool and the dashboard now. Yeah, so you can
That's the
view.
main. So you got a main. So you would see this as
Yeah,
commits.
there's
Okay.
nothing happened for the tool. I think you might see if you go back and you click on the dashboard, you'll see there was changes.
The main branch. So you got the
Yeah.
development branch for release, and then that's released. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's
Okay.
the
Okay. Great. Just curious. That's great. Yeah.
yeah yeah.
Okay. So that's November and December covered. Is there anything
Yeah.
else you want to say on that? We've
Do we
covered
need to
element.
close the, do we need to close the like November issue and send it
Yes.
to them?
Yeah. Yeah. We
Okay.
can close November.
Let's see. Done. Okay. I'm not sure if he tags you need to apply to that, but done. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's all the development documentation or implementation.
That open source documentation thing that I've bought. So it's a documentation on how to automate documentation. So I
Okay.
think the link in the middle shows the website. So this is
Oh yeah.
GitHub
I remember.
pages.
I remember
Yeah.
now. Is
Yes.
that complete now?
I think so. I might have another look at, but I think it is complete.
We can reopen it as a different issue because it's like a discrete piece of work, isn't it? And
Yeah, yeah.
so what milestone should that be?
Oh, it's just there wasn't any date assigned to it, but
All right.
it did happen in November.
Is it budgeted for?
No, no, no. It's just something I picked it up when I looked at something, and then I
All
thought,
right.
and then we
Should
discussed it in one Monday meeting.
I remember? Yeah. So
Then
I'll put the end and the beginning of November.
yeah, yeah.
But we didn't. Was no budget for it.
No, no, no. But it
Okay.
is, I think it is something we can use. I think you maybe when you have time,
Yeah.
you can play around with it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Is this
So,
mentioned in our reporting somewhere, Vanny?
No, because when did you create this? I think it was after I'd submitted the report.
Bugger.
Yeah, it should have been in there,
yeah,
shouldn't it?
I'm trying to
somewhere in
think.
November, yeah.
Let me just keep this in. Let
It
me
was
just
late November, I think, yeah.
let me put an action item for myself here for action 2.
I was busy with the. I think I was busy doing the same thing for Treasury. Then I thought I might as well just do one for Archives as well.
Well,
No,
what I'll do, I'll create a reference. I refer to it in the development Git book. I mean,
Yeah.
our development section. Yeah. I'll leave it open for the moment so I can remember to do that, and then I'll close it. Because otherwise it might get lost. I don't want to get lost because it is quite an interesting piece of work. It's one part of our toolkit we could use.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll create a reference for it in the Git book here somewhere, like maybe down here somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is
Cool.
also nice. The one cool thing about this thing, you
Yeah.
just update Markdown files. Once it's set up, you just update Markdown files in a repo, commit, and then that website that auto deploys, it also has a search functionality all built into it.
Right. How?
Uh,
See, what prep do you need to do for that? Do you need
It's not a lot here. You need to set up a GitHub action. You need to change some settings in GitHub pages, and you can copy and paste all the document.
right?
The middle link explains everything, and it has
Could
the
it be
code
done
you
as
can
part of
copy.
a? It could be done as part of a repo template.
Yes,
Like,
I think if you
so
click on the top one, the top link, yes.
well,
I
this
think
one
I
here.
did. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So you'll see there is actually a button, template. So
Right.
scroll down, use this template. Then it actually, if you click on it, it automatically goes to your personal
Yeah.
account, and then you can choose the repo name. So it will create the repo with
Okay.
all the folders and everything.
Okay. I'm just thinking of other uses for it. One thing maybe I could do, it depends on budget and stuff and time, but we could do a video work through of this or
Yes, we
something,
definitely
or
need to do a video on this.
but
Yeah,
again, that's time, So
yeah.
I'm just trying to think of. I need to think of other uses for this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because I'm trying to think of something where it could be automated end to end. Let's say gosh, anyway, I'll go and think like create some kind of query or um, documentation, and then that outputs automatically somehow. But anyway, but enough time. I'll keep it open for the moment, as I said, and then refer to it in the Git book and come back and close it. So
Yeah, yeah.
that's great work, Andre. So moving on
Mhm.
to community engagement tag, and that's a quarterly report. Um,
yeah, it was done, it was submitted, and it's obviously met the case because we haven't had any objections to the budget. So,
Very nice.
is it closed then?
well, it can be, yeah. I
Yeah,
wanted to
yes.
leave it until the
Let's
meeting. I always think it's
send it for
best to
payment.
close issues in a meeting.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yes,
It-
definitely. We need to mark it as done in the meeting so we
yeah.
can send it for payment.
Mhm.
yeah, great work. Thanks,
So
Vanny.
yeah, just added the stuff that we said we'd add and kind of, I think, tried to look at what we're going to do next quarter as well.
Yeah, which is still a work
At
in
least I
progress, but
mentioned the dashboard, even if I
Yes,
didn't
yes.
mention
exactly,
it.
That's
yeah.
very nice. Yeah,
I think we're starting to, yeah, we're getting to a nice workflow here though, where we do some work, we communicate it well,
yeah,
So, and anyway, as you say, because it needs to go recorded in
Yeah,
this meeting and then go to payment, so I'll put
if you can just change it to
done,
done.
yeah.
and
That's
yeah.
Okay, let's try and see what else I've got here. The archive Git
yeah.
book
I mean,
issues.
these are just in progress. I haven't had a lot of time lately, so I'm hoping to get all these done and closed over Christmas because I just need to sit down and plow through them.
Fair enough. And okay, what's that? Okay, that's why, because that's okay. That's and then the budget.
Yeah, similarly, it's done, it was submitted, and it was consented to. Maybe if you add a note that no objections, so it's passed.
Very nice.
Relief after last time's extended
Well,
debate.
we didn't really get hardly any objections, I don't think. So it's kind of not been that bad for us anyway, but
Do you get paid for that? Is there no budget for that?
no, that's the thing. We've never had a budget for preparing a budget. I don't know.
Which
Other
is
people do.
crazy.
Maybe we should.
Yeah,
Yeah, we probably
why?
should do. Yeah.
I don't know. We just never did. And I think honestly, it's not preparing the budget is the easy bit. The hard bit is the bloody budget wrangling when things go up and down. But hopefully, with the new budget cap process, maybe we don't have to do that anymore. Because obviously, as people know, budgets were submitted with an assumed exchange rate of 55. But
Yeah,
if you just want to like open the budget, Stephen, and just I'll show you what we mean.
Right,
I
I'm just
did add a,
clicking.
sorry,
Yeah, go on.
yeah.
No, go on, go on.
I did add one thing at the bottom with a zero and just if there is money because token price goes up. Can you scroll down?
Where am I looking?
There we go.
oh yes.
So this was this ideal documenters team, and there will need to be budget for doing that, but we couldn't fit it into our budget cap. But obviously now that Ajax price has gone up, if it's still up there in January, then we can do that on our budget cap of whatever it was, 10,000 AGIX.
Hmm.
So yeah, I just feel like it stops us having to wrangle budgets in the same way as we did, because before, if token price went down, it was just like, oh my God, I've got to go and
Hmm.
do a budget rec to fit that. And you know yourselves how much time that took for all of us to go, right, what are we gonna put, what are we gonna cut, what are we gonna move?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I just want
yeah.
to create in this note what we're
Hmm.
discussing on the overhead costs of budgeting process.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so no, it's a bit oblique, but I just wanted to capture that a bit.
Yeah.
So
No, I think maybe when we come to put in our quarter 2 budget, maybe we could put in something for writing the budget and wrangling the budget through the year. But also in our kind of project management budget, there is money for that as well.
right. I suppose that's more appropriate maybe. But okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of think it's okay having it in project management because it's already there, so it's already costed. But I don't know if we need a separate budget line for it to separate it out, because the issue is that the project management issues are all assigned to you, Stephen.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe having a separate budget line for this work
Well, maybe we should rethink
means
that
that I get paid for it. Yeah.
because basically the scope of my project management is doing this stand up. Really, that's really it.
No,
So
it's not. You do quite a lot of other planning as well. You
okay,
really do.
well, kind of. I suppose I'll do some strategic stuff, but maybe we could think about how we cost that and categorize that. But
Yeah.
anyway, but it's left as a note here, so we have something to
Hmm.
come back to,
Sure.
and
yeah,
I'll close it. Yeah.
I always quite like to keep the budget issue open until, at the very least, the issues in the budget have been added to the board. So if you could maybe add a note that I will add them.
But then a separate comment.
Okay.
So issues in
Issues to be created for the work that we're planning to do in Q1.
oh, come on, I can't spell now.
yeah.
Because people are watching.
I'm not.
No.
I'm looking
Um
elsewhere.
I saw everything.
that's Q that's Q1 25. Tuesday budget. Cool. Okay. Does that say what we need to say?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm kind of, my English has stopped working. So that's that. And I'll keep it open. Okay.
Yeah.
And we discussed the archives kit book that are kind of work in progress. Is Sukra here?
Now she's hopped.
No.
And Sukra's done some work. Should that be in in a milestone?
Oh yeah, it should be December.
Yeah.
Okay, done. And it's open?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she probably came along to give an update and then she's obviously had to hop off for
Yeah, yeah.
defunding all hands meeting. So I'll
Right.
ask her if you I'll ask her to update the issue and then it can be closed before next week, I think.
Well, I'll keep it open until
Yeah.
okay. Okay, I think that's it. Um, thank you everyone for coming. I don't think there's any other business unless I've missed anything.
Oh, there is actually. Are we agreed that our first meeting back in January is the 8th
Oh yeah.
rather than
Okay.
the 15th? I don't know.
I'll put that here actually in the discussion, thinking about it. This okay, will that copy it? No, it won't. No. Okay. Is the kind of the general feeling that the 8th is fine?
I'm happy with any date.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
3, 2, we, January the 8th. Is that a
Yeah,
Wednesday, presumably?
obviously, yeah.
Um,
Yep.
and then back to
But
normal for the following month.
we also need to make sure that's added to the calendar. So our meetings for the quarter will be then the 8th of Jan, the 5th of Feb, and the 5th of March. So we just need to add
I,
those to the
s-
calendar.
I see it is on the calendar on that.
I know, but I think
Yeah.
isn't it still fortnightly on the calendar? So
Oh,
something can be taken
yeah.
out.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Um,
I know Sukra's got back end access. Maybe I can ask her if she will
okay.
update it. Unless you have, Andre, have you?
Uh, I'm looking now. It actually isn't.
Oh, okay.
So there's no archive. Oh, no, shit. No, wait, this is the 22nd. Yeah, there's nothing. There's no archive meetings
Really, I saw it's still on
for the
my
rest of
calendar
December.
after the rest of December. Okay.
Yeah.
I've got
Yeah.
it
So the
for
first one is
this
on the
one.
8th.
This one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks
Okay.
alright. The only thing I meant to see. No, it's got a Zoom link. It's actually everything looks perfect. So we
Oh,
don't have
right.
to do
Okay. Well, that's
anything.
good.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a link from the
Yeah.
Zoom account or something?
No.
I'm just looking at the Google Calendar.
Yeah.
Oh, no, there is actually on the Google Calendar, there's one on the 22nd of January, which needs taken out.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah. That needs taken out.
Okay.
Oh, and it's in twice on the 5th of Feb.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm
I
very
don't
busy
know
that day.
why.
Goodness gracious.
Oh, that's
Well,
weird.
I had
Why it's
twice as
on
much to do that day. Yeah.
and it's
Okay.
there on the 19th. Yeah, it's in fortnightly basically, so we just need to tweak it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I can try. I'm not very good with Zoom, but I need to learn anyway. So let me have a go at it.
Oh, I don't think it's from Zoom though. I think you change the calendar via the calendar, don't you?
It's the
Oh,
Rather
archive
than
work
via
group
Zoom.
Google account calendar or
Yeah,
something. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. To change, I yeah, I'm not quite sure how to access that either.
I don't know if I don't think I
Oh
don't
no,
have that.
sorry, ambassadors program. Sorry, it's the ambassadors program.
Oh yeah.
Um, Google. be anything more specific than that, but because this is a public document. But yeah, so I'm not sure. Is it the same as the? Oh gosh, no. I'm thinking of swarms click out.
No, no, no.
No, but it's not. It's something, but it would be similar. Yeah.
It is the same sort of 2FA process. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't have access to that, so no.
I do have access to the SingularityNET Ambassador Gmail.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that would be it. If
Should
you've
I
got
just
access,
delete it from that day, the
Mhm.
22nd?
you should be able. That should give you access. Yeah, because
Mhm.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
if you have access to that, you have presumably it's a Google. What
Okay.
do they call it? The suite or whatever.
It
Yeah.
works, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
deleted the one on the 22nd and then obviously one of these first.
I think there's one on the
Feb.
19th of Feb that needs to come out, and one on like the middle of March that needs to come out.
You've made the changes, Andre.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The 5th of March and then 19th March I can take out. These double ones, which ones should I take out?
I guess the one that's got the link in it should be kept. I don't know.
I wonder which one is the correct link because they've got different
Oh, if they.
looks like.
Oh, is it not the same link then? UTO9. Let me just see.
That's weird.
Oh. Let me just look. I think I've got our Zoom open, so I should be able to see what the link is supposed to be. Oh.
Mm.
No, I'm sorry, I haven't. It would take me a little while to log in.
I think it is. You are right. The one with the link should be kept
Mhm.
because I copied the invite link of the one we are currently in, and it is the same as the link that's in the one with the
Yeah.
link.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that wraps it up. We just decided when we're going to meet and next year, and I'll stop sharing and stop recording.
Oh, yes.